I do real estate, right? I love doors. I always say I'm a pretty girl to sell ugly apartments, sell ugly deals, because I'll go where people won't go, and I'll walk that, and I'll see, and I'll ask the neighbors, and I'll hunt them down, and I'll get that property. But I wasn't getting it for me. I don't want $1 million in revenue. I want 1 million doors to house women that have been trafficked. People play too small, because you got to get creative with stuff like this when you're building safe communities, when you're dealing with this population of individuals. But I still get to do real estate. I still get to make money, but I'm serving people.
Yeah,
this ain't no Section 8. This ain't this is real deal.
Yeah.
Spots that people can come when they've been trafficked. And you got to think about it. A lot of people are going to ask, why are you doing that? I didn't make a choice to do this. I'm convicted. Like, I got a life sentence for this.
Yeah.
And I can't take that away, because that's the life I've lived.
Welcome to the Trailblazers Talk podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Ortega, and we are committed to bringing you content just like this every week to inspire, to motivate, and to empower you as an entrepreneur so you could blaze your own trail to success. And I'm sitting here with a super guest. When I say a super guest, I really mean that, because yesterday I interviewed another guest, and she was a guest of his. And normally, I like to research my guests, or I like to know a little bit about them, but this is something super special. That's why she's a super guest. I just met her, my guest Larry, which was, I don't know what sequence of the podcast this would be, but Larry Steinman, so it was like, hey man, you got to interview her. She's really good. She'll be perfect for your podcast. And I'll tell you this, when someone like Larry says to do something, you do it. You just do it, because he knows what he's talking about. So I'm here for the very first time. I don't know who she is. I'm finding out for the first time today. But this is the thing about not knowing somebody. You could feel them. When you're in the presence of greatness, you know that it's greatness. So I'm sitting here with Shametria. I told you I was going to start. We're not cutting this out. Keep it on the podcast. With Shametria Gonzales. She is my super guest today, so welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're having me. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm glad that you don't know too much about me, because at that point, it becomes really organic. And
Right.
One of my favorite quotes to say is that if you have to think about it too much, it's not genuine. That's how you know it's real.
That's real.
When you don't really have to think about
that's
it.
real.
Yeah, you just felt it, and you let me come here. So because of that, I truly appreciate that. And I think that's where we are right now.
I love that. Mm-hmm. The one thing I've learned just in life is you need to take chances when you feel it.
Yes.
And I know that you don't hop on podcasts often, and you told me earlier you say no a lot.
Yeah. I've learned to say no a lot this year. Yeah.
But also, when you feel like it's a good opportunity, you jump on it.
Immediately, without a question. Yeah. I think that if you have to think about it, like I said, it's not genuine.
Yeah.
And of course, Larry he's a big deal. So if he's here doing your podcast and I came here with him, I don't even know why I came, but it was a good reason. It was just to support him. And then as a byproduct of that, by showing up in the room, I'm here with you today.
I love that.
Yeah. So I think that's the first lesson. Show up in the room.
Show up.
Yeah.
So you got to say it louder for the people in the back.
Yeah, you got to show up in the room, because luck is what happens when the preparation meets that opportunity. Right. So I didn't get lucky.
Yeah.
I prepared for this moment with you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, this is the first time me getting to know you.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with, I don't want to be like, hey, tell me what you do. I want to know, like, from just a genuine perspective, like, what is your why? Why are you in this chair? Yeah. Why are you in Vegas? Mm-hmm. Why are you at these conferences?
Yeah.
Why are you presently doing what you're doing?
I love that question. Thank you for asking me that.
Absolutely.
So before I get into my why, there's an exercise by Dean Graziosi, and it's called 7 Levels Deep. And I always do it at the end of my show. So I just found out my why by doing the 7 levels deep. And ultimately, it's to become the best version of myself and to change the world, because I first changed myself one philosophy at a time. I know that may not, people don't really know me, they don't understand, but my why is connected to my purpose. And so my purpose is to just be me and be the best version of me. And as being me, the byproduct is everybody else around me. It's like a domino effect, you know. I don't want to change anybody. I just want to be the best me, and I want to show up in the room. And when I do, the temperature changes because I model what I want people to do versus telling them what I
Why
want
does
them to
it
do.
matter to you that you're the best version of yourself?
Man, because if you're not, and when you're the best version of yourself, the byproduct of that is other people benefit. When you're not the best version of yourself,
Can you give me like examples of like what does that look like?
Absolutely. So there's a saying called "hurt people hurt other people," and every morning that I wake up, I do a routine. I do my 5 a.m. club thing. I pray, I meditate, I might work out, but I'm priming myself in order to be in the best state, peak state. So whenever I go into the world, everybody that I come in contact with, I had the responsibility first to take care of me, and then I can take care of everybody
That's
else.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good. I like how you said you have the responsibility to take care of you.
Yes.
So then you can take care of everyone else.
Yes.
It's like when you hop on an airplane and they say, hey, if we're crashing, put the mask on you first.
Correct.
And then you help the person next to you.
Correct.
So you apply that on a daily basis.
On the daily basis. It's a principle. Some people live by religion. They live by rules. They live by standards. I live by principles. Principles are just a set of standards that I've accumulated in my life experiences over time that help me be the best version of me.
I like that. Yep. How long have you been practicing this non-negotiable?
Ooh, that's good. I don't know. It's a lifestyle now, but I'll let you know that when I first found out about it, it was by a pastor named Dr. Miles Monroe. And
this is the second time I've heard his name.
Wow.
In the last 24 hours.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to look up Dr. Miles Monroe.
Okay.
He is a kingdom builder, and I'm going to let you have your own experience with him. But he went really deep. He started at 14 in the Bahamas as a pastor and built. He was one of the first pastors basically over there, kind of like a T.D. Jakes here.
Okay.
But he built a huge, massive business empire and really, really dug deep into long church sermons and long lectures. And, he just had an amazing following and was a very, very good person to model as a man and as a pastor, but also as a person.
I love that. Okay. Yeah. So you got this from him.
Yes.
And you've been implementing it for quite some time.
Yes.
So I see you now as this shining person. You're doing. From the observation, it looks like you're doing really well.
I am.
Was there a time when you weren't? Like, what is the complete opposite of today? And how long ago was that?
Yeah.
And what did you do differently to go from the opposite till now?
I love your questions. This interview is already starting off very good. So I like to start from the beginning. Okay. I was a small town country girl who had a really big dream. So I was born to parents that were drug addicted, taken away, foster homes, different places here, there. 15 years old, I decided to emancipate myself. For those who don't know what that means, emancipation means that you are in the foster system and you go to court to legally say, I want to be grown to take care of myself. So I did that and I won it. So going into that, now I don't have any more social workers. I don't have anybody watching over me.
You're pretty much an adult.
I'm pretty much an adult. Okay. So anybody out there with kids, 15 years old, this is me going into the world with nothing except I'm legal, I'm in school. I was very, very much self-sufficient and very much always had the mindset of a winner. And no matter what, like I always say, I grew up in extreme poverty, but I didn't know till other people told me. I didn't know what poor was. I was happy. This energy this is what I always have been. Okay. This is who I am. And so I do think that some people are just born leaders and born with a certain sense of knowing thyself. I also was a woman that went to church a lot, so I had the Holy Spirit with me, guiding me. So I believe that had a covenant over me. But at 15, I met some girls that I was working at Sonic Drive-In. They thought I was really pretty, and they asked me to come and be a part of their group. And I had no idea that group was a sexual trafficking ring.
At 15?
15 years old. I met a man named Snake. And, it started off at poker tournaments, and it was a coercion of the mind. It was about 80 girls, and there was about 80 girls, a little over 80. Wow. And there were tons of houses. There were really nice cars. These were foreign men. Most of the girls were foreigners, didn't have documentation. Ages was between maybe 9 and 22. Once you age out, it's it's kind of like it was very much pedophilia. And again, I'm telling you this from a different mindset now. At that time, I didn't know that. I've done a lot of work on self to be able to talk about this story. And to anybody out there who has gone through something like this, take care of yourself during this podcast. If you feel any type of way, I always say take a step up to take a step back. So take a deep breath, take a step back, and then come back into it when you're ready to listen. But I do know that for some people, this could be hard for them.
Yeah.
But for myself, I have done the work. So when I share it in power. So around 15 years old, after I got taken, it started off kind of poker tournaments, and then it kind of went to clubs, and then private doctor, lock on the outside of your door. You wake up, you go to sleep. And men are just coming in, you know, one after the next. And a lot of drugs administered through doctors, private doctors. So I like to spread awareness when I talk about this just a little bit. This is a rich man's game. You know, this is the mob. And so after basically 5 years, I got saved when I was 19. There was a pastor. His name is Tim. He has passed away now. I don't give his last name, but everybody knows my story. They know he's dear to my heart. He infiltrated the system and was an undercover, and he was my client. So the very first time I learned the power of my story and the power of words was when I was tired. I was really tired, and he asked me, was I okay? And I just broke down and told him, no, I wasn't. And I could have lost my life because they set us up like that all the time. They'd send men in to act like they would help us, but they'd be a part of the ring to try to get snitches. And then it's death, you know, is the consequence.
Wow.
So I saw a lot. I went through a lot. And at 19 years old, by the grace of God, by sharing my story with him that day that I wasn't okay, it was enough information for the FBI to infiltrate the system. They did bring the ring down. It was an 80-plus bust. I'm sorry, it was 80-plus women saved. And it was a really big bust in Texas. And that was the first time that I realized the power of the legal system, good and bad, because a lot of those women got prostitution charges. I was basically somebody who helped them, so an informant. So I didn't get any charges, thank God. But all of the women, most of them, if they weren't cooperative, got charged. Wow. The leader of the organization never was found, but the organization was brought down. Wow. A lot of the women did conform and tell and things like that, but a lot of them were upset. They felt like they lost their life. They didn't know anything else. A lot of them were misplaced, but that part of my story is that part that I go to, and I used to run from it. I never liked telling this story. Like, I wanted to just leave that away and say, you know, but I realize now that is what made me who I am today, because that is the first time that I realized the power of my story, which I use now in order to build my business, very successful business in speaking. And it was the first time that I realized that God was real and that he uses people to help you. And 100%. That if, and Coach Tim getting me out of that situation, he also owned a school called God's Academy. I didn't have any education like that. So I got my GED. I took my SATs, my ACTs. I had to take everything quite a few times. Mm-hmm. But once I passed, I wrote my story to every HBCU in the country, and I got 28 scholarship offers. Wow. Full ride. And there was one catch. I had a baby from being trafficked. I had adopted her out and got her back after I was saved. But it was me and her, and I said that she has to come with me. So I chose Southern University, and they gave me a one-bedroom apartment. I redshirted the first year, worked out every day, joined the volleyball team and the basketball team, graduated magna cum laude, wow. Went on to get my master's, and started into adversarial work, working over the Louisiana Foundation Against Sexual Assault.
That is... I know that's just the beginning of that's just story, the beginning of it. But that's so beautiful that you got saved and all of this great things came through that. And one of the things I just want to share for this moment, guys, and one thing you'll learn about this podcast is I'm not afraid to bring God up. And I want to encourage you guys, if you're going through something, you're going through a season, leaning and trusting God is the key. There's no book, there's no course, there's no seminar, and not against that. I'm totally supportive towards all of that. Yeah. But God is the only answer to get you out of the season that you're struggling in. Amen. And if this testament hasn't shook you, I mean, this is just the beginning of the podcast. I mean, get ready. I feel like the world's going to flip over, but I just want to say thank you for sharing that. And thank you for stepping in to the shoes that you're in, because it's these conversations that will save so many lives and will bring so many lives to God.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I appreciate you for that. And I think that ultimately nobody wakes up and says, I want to fight the mob. You know, I think some things are truly like an onion.
Right.
And in those moments, I would have never thought that having drug addicted parents or being trafficked or having a baby out of that situation and keeping her, I could have gotten rid of her.
Right.
They would have done that easily, but I actually had to hide my pregnancy because they know. So basically, they give us makeup swabs during that time, and women put it up there because it absorbs, but you still have to work. That's crazy, but it's a real thing. And so I would have to use them and like just like act like I'm still.
That's crazy.
So I did so much to protect that child, and then I also had to give her up as soon as I had her.
And how many years were you away from her?
2.
2 years.
I got her when she was 2. Yeah, haven't left her side except this year because I traveled.
Yeah.
But yeah, her name's Avriana, and we wrote a book about the experience called "The Reflection I See," and the reason I brought her up is because in that moment, Avery was 9, and I had redeveloped myself, went to college, got out of college, got jobs, working working as an advocate, you know, rape prevention coordinator, traveling, speaking at schools, sharing my story, volunteering. And my daughter comes home one day, and she's like, I always tell her, if it's something that's really important, sit me down because my mind is like always on the go and get my attention. So she was like, Mom, can we talk? And I'm like, oh, all right. What you want to talk about? And I'm excited. I'm like thinking something's good. And she said, they had a brunch at my school, like father-daughter brunch, Mom. Do I have a dad?
Wow.
And I was shook, and I never thought about that question. I never even thought to bring it up. Like she had a life nothing like mine. That's what you call breaking generational curses, is that you break what happened so many times before you from happening to yours. And so I was proud of that. I didn't want her to know anything about that. And in that moment, I was about to lie. And God said, tell the truth. Sometimes we hear a whisper and we think it's like the devil versus the angel. And sometimes that's the Holy Spirit inside of us. That's like, I heard it loud and clear. So I said, okay, can you sit down too? And so I told her, pardon me. I told her what happened.
Need some water by chance?
Oh yeah, I always love water.
Okay.
But so I told her what happened. And imagine this, guys. Your 9-year-old kid. Thank you. Your 9-year-old kid asking you this question. You have all this shame.
Yeah.
And you've been trying to hide it from him. But God tells you to tell the truth. Will you listen to him or will you go against that?
That is a hard thing to follow through with.
I had to listen. And I'm going to tell you why I'm glad I did. I told her everything. So she looks at me with a pregnant pause and goes, oh, so that means God's my father? Okay. And skips.
She's 9.
She skips off. Like, and I'm like, God ripped my soul out in that moment. And like, I'm crying, laughing.
Yeah.
Because, number one, what 9-year-old would say something like that? Like, that's your rationalization?
Yeah.
After I told you everything was that God is my father. Immediately in that moment, we started opening up. And that's when I started sharing my story. And I started doing like a little podcast with her. And I included her in it because mothers needed to see this. There's a legislative bill called Roe versus Wade. A lot of people know about it, but it was about abortion rights. And me and my daughter during that time, I was an advocate to actually be with that bill because what it did was it kind of stopped abortions. And I know y'all have all these different things about it. I just wanted to share our story to give women a chance to see what happens when God makes something happen in this space that was, you know, meant for bad from the flesh of the world. But look at this little girl right here. You can't tell me that this wasn't meant to happen.
Right.
And I don't care. I don't care how it happened. I wouldn't change it for the world. So that was our whole thing of like, take anything that's bad and turn it around for good because that is the power God gave us. So we started talking about it. And then I'm like, she's a reflection of me. Boom, book. The Reflection I See.
Wow. That's
because
how that came about.
My innocence, she was with me every day of my life after 2.
Yeah.
So that answer that she rationalized was based on the principles that I had been building her up on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoo,
I tell you, it gets good, man. It gets good.
That is really, that is a beautiful testimony of God's grace.
Yeah.
And you're living it. Like you said, there's so many women, I mean, parents in general, men too.
Yeah.
You know,
Parents.
I feel there's a lot of people who's really appreciating this.
Thank you.
And I'm also, again, I'm gonna say this again. I'm just really grateful that you're able to open up, because I can't imagine how hard it was to even consider opening up.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I kind of want to take a leap from that moment to entrepreneurship.
Oh man.
So, you know,
I love telling this story.
What was that bridge? Like, how did you get into, like, I don't even know what you got into for money. You know, I mean, you got a book with your daughter. I overheard like you're doing podcasts with her, but like, what did you do to break into entrepreneurship?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that. So we'll fast forward after that. Okay. Basically, that's when I had the revelation of speaking and books and podcasting.
And how long ago was this?
This was back in 2015.
Okay.
And before that, remember, I was an advocate all the way up, you know, kind of a scholar, working woman. And then at that time, I entered into entrepreneurship with the book launch and the podcast. We got on the news because, I mean, it was a big story. So everybody wanted to bring us on the news, and that's when I started kind of getting into entrepreneurship. So what I did was I started working with local not-for-profits, sharing my story. Now, not-for-profits, don't kill me for this, because I love y'all and y'all are amazing. But a lot of them would turn my pain into their profit. And working at a not-for-profit, I mean, you're making about $60,000 a year. Here's a master's graduate that loves what I do, but I'm making $43,000 a year, and I'm trying to do all this other stuff because I didn't have a problem with that lifestyle because I was very modest. But when I started to try to be an entrepreneur and do that work, I started to see that this work was keeping me from entrepreneurship. So one had to go. And I knew this work was connected to my purpose. So I'm going to tell you the moment that I switched everything up and how I became the woman I am today.
All right, let's go.
I'm at a certain event, which is the biggest golf tournament in the world. I go on stage, I speak. We do a silent auction, $1.3 million raised from my story. I go home and there's an eviction note on my door. I cried. I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I just raised all this money. Let me reach out to this organization. I reached out to them. I said, hey guys, I know that I just spoke and, you know, you guys raised all this money to help survivors. And I know I'm kind of an advocate now, but I'm still a survivor and I'm about to be evicted and I need some help. And, you know, I just need my rent paid. If you could help me, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. They said, we're sorry, Shametria, but the funds are not allocated towards housing.
What?
But I just shared my story.
And helped them raise
$1.3 million. I saw this with my own eyes. I was physically sitting there listening to this. I mean, I was happy for them. I didn't want anything.
Yeah.
I was so happy I didn't know about speaking and selling from stage. I didn't know none of that.
Yeah.
I just knew that I was raising awareness, people cared, and that this money would help other people.
Yeah.
But as a woman who had been trafficked, I never dealt with the mentality. I'd spent a lot of money on motivational camps and, you know, I went through trauma therapy, NLP. I was Tony Robbins, Lisa Nichols, Les Brown, Earl Nightingale, Zig Ziglar, Bob Proctor, David Goggins. I can go on and on, Gary Vee, because it's in me. I use all those people to help get me to be this thing, and then I didn't have any money. And then now they're turning my pain into their profit.
Yeah.
So then I started to think, and I said, okay, I'm going to put my purpose in between that. I'm going to turn my pain into my purpose and then use my purpose to make profit. That's what it all...
Say that one more time.
Because
there's people in the back, like all the way over there that need to hear that, one more time.
Instead of letting people... Because the news, think about the news. The news thrives off of pain, off of drama.
Yeah.
So does everything else, and that's my story. Yeah. So they were using my story to fundraise, to help others, but that was my story.
Right.
And I couldn't even I couldn't even pay my bills, but I was doing great work.
Yeah.
So instead of just letting them turn my pain into their, okay, remember the PPP, y'all? PPP. They turned my pain into their profit. I put my purpose in between it. You turn your pain into your purpose. You need a vehicle to drive, and then drive that purpose into profit, and don't look back. That. Yeah. Thank you. I'll write that down.
Yeah. The 3 Ps.
The three Ps. So that moment, everything turned around. I left, and I went off on my own. I started doing podcasts. I started speaking on stages. I started trying out for TV shows. I got my real estate license. I started kind of dibble-dabbling into like network marketing, joined Tony Robbins Platinum membership. Like all the money that I had made, everything that people donated to me, everything that people was helping me with, because afterwards, I did do pretty good. I just reinvested it back into myself, y'all. For 10 plus years, I got money and put it right back out. Got money, put it right back out. And I started doing that for a couple years, and I started to get a little traction, got me a duplex, started learning about passive income, and and then I met somebody that told me the word multifamily and commercial real estate, and as a woman, how we can put those two together and make it work for ourselves. So instead of selling deals for other people to make a profit, I started to get deals so I could make my own profit. But you had to take a risk. So I had to work until I can accumulate. Yeah. Okay. And even the money that I made in the beginning, I had to reinvest that. I had to keep reinvesting that until I was able to get enough to get me to where I'm at. So everything was good. I was living real nice. I even became a police officer. I was working as an officer, doing some real estate on the side, doing all these events. I was just a mom. I was living my best life, but I was also scared. Les Brown says that his biggest mistake was not believing in himself, because he could have been doing what he's doing way back then
in his life
and been way further than where he's at now.
Yeah.
I say that my biggest mistake was that everyone has a gift. I knew my gift was speaking. The easiest thing I ever had to do was speak and get on stages. The hardest thing I had to do was to believe that I deserved it.
Wow.
My name is spelled Shame, which spells shame. TRIA. So even in the beginning, it's funny, like when I think about my biggest problem being shame, it's at the beginning of my name, right? So I had to do a lot of deep diving into myself to really believe in myself. And I did a lot of stuff, but then this year has been the best year of my life, and it changed everything. Pardon me. Got a little water.
Take.
So after all that stuff, I was playing small, but somebody's, I'd been to all these trainings. I was with a guy named Pete Ferguson. He has 10X stages. Pat Quinn has signature talks. So I was still doing my speaking. I was, an officer. I had a nice house on the lake. I was very modest, like just settling. So somebody sends me this thing about this Great American Speak Off. So I'm like, okay, I'll go try out for that. I know Pete because I had done the workshop and, done all this stuff. So I go try out. It's 40,000 people that have registered.
Wow.
All these people try out. All these different states, they take the top 10, they take the top 3. I wasn't a top 3, y'all. Grant Cardone calls me on stage. Like basically,
how long ago was this?
This was in February of this year.
Okay.
Yeah. So when the auditions happened was in November of last year.
Okay.
So I go to try out for this speak off because this year has been the best year of my life. I can't wait to get to this part, but the other part got me to be this woman today. So I had to dive deep into that. This part is just kind of like still playing out as we speak. I'm only 32. So, I'm a baby in the industry that we're in of speaking and coaching. Yeah. But everybody deserves a second chance, and I got mine this year.
That's beautiful.
So
you go to the 10X Speak Off. Mm-hmm. So you said there's 40,000 people registered. What does that mean? So
they put out the ad, Facebook ad, market or whatever. 40,000 people sign up. So they do 4 states and 3 virtuals. I don't know how many people they actually auditioned that signed up, but they get them down to the top 100. We all go to Miami, and then we go on stage to top 10. I'm in the top 10. We all go, and we're now we get to present in front of Pete Ferguson, Coach Stormy, Elena Cardone, and Grant Cardone. So while we're performing, they were only going to take 3 to speak at Growth Conference. And so we finished, and they got their top 3, and we left the stage. I walked off stage, and then I hear Grant Cardone saying, something's not right. There's a woman back there that I have A-list celebrities, and I would choose her over them any day.
Wow.
But she didn't bring it today. But just like I got a second chance in life, she deserved one too. And he brings us back out, and he says, Shametria Gonzales, you're coming to Vegas. I can't wait to have you on my stage.
Let's go. How's it feel? Just take a quick moment.
For me to pause right there, just to...
What was the feeling when you heard that?
Man, it's unexplainable. It felt out of body because I wasn't expecting it. And I think I was genuinely happy that I made it that far. I literally thought, okay, I'm happy I made it this far.
Right.
I mean, those people, everybody on that stage was a millionaire. I'm a thousandaire. Like, I'm not ashamed. I've made a lot of money and done a lot of things, but I mean, there are just levels of multi-millions in business and revenue. And I know why they were there, but I didn't know why I was there. Still that little bit of piece of me that I had to work on. But I mean, for him to say that everybody deserves a second chance, I think that it wasn't just me on the stage. I was representing all the women that have been through what I've been through. I was representing all the little girls that was born with crack in their system. I was a neek baby. For 6 months, I was in an incubator. I was fighting for my life since I started. That's why I take so much pride in health and drink water, and I'm strong, and I really take care of myself because I didn't start like that.
Yeah.
And so for the foster children, for the HBCU grads, like, we deserve a spot at the table. So when he gave me that spot, he didn't even realize that there's a whole legion of people behind me that get to. It's just like the 4-minute mile. If they don't see that somebody else could break that, you think you're gonna die if you get past that. But if one person does it, it's a domino effect.
Yeah.
So
Change
now,
status quo.
Yep, I feel like he didn't just do it for me. He did it for a whole army of people that I represent. Yeah, I'm just a vessel. I don't even like fame. I don't really like people. I'm very much introverted and kind of out the way, but being on the stage, it's not what happens on stage. I care about what happened off the stage. So being on that stage, I didn't know what it was going to change my life. I had no idea I'd be booked from that day until next April.
Wow.
For podcast paid bookings. The highest one, $25K, the lowest one, free. But at the end of the day, in between that, grossed me over $120 this year.
Let's go.
Just speaking from stages, not the return on investments from what I got from the stage.
Yeah. Here's one thing I want to say. I told you I was going to say in the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
But you said it's not about the return on investment.
Yeah.
You're focusing on this purpose, on this vision that God has fueled.
Yeah.
And you're actually reaping the benefit of return on impact.
Yes.
You're really focusing on where you were and knowing that what you're doing is helping generations who need to be broken out of the system. Yeah. But your 3 Ps, pain, purpose, profit.
Yes.
Now you're benefiting on return on impact.
Correct. And that is where now, so basically after that one stage, it catapulted me.
Yeah.
People will say, I think the speaking industry has been hijacked by salesmen.
100%.
Oh, I'm so glad you went, because sometimes I'm scared to say that. Don't knock me off.
I could agree with you.
Mine is completely different because I was sold.
Yeah.
My physical body was sold. So people are like, oh, you got to get through that stuff of not selling everybody. And I'm like, nah, I don't. So what I did was creative fundraising. This year, basically, when I would get off stage, people would say, Shametria, what do you have? What are your product? And I felt like, you know what quicksand looked like, right? Imagine quicksand running through my fingers. That was what happened when I was on stage.
Yeah, I know exactly how you feel.
People were coming and coming and coming. I had nothing to give them because all I wanted to do was motivate them.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make you feel good, share my testimony.
Yeah, it's not
enough.
So
because of that, I had to create Unleash to Speak.
Okay.
Which was a coaching program that focuses on the mindset of a speaker. I show them the background of everything it took for me to become a speaker.
Yeah.
I don't focus on how you sell from stage, it's how do you become a speaker and and channel that inner thing inside you to be able to create your story and then share that in a space that is there as a social entrepreneur. So a lot of people know 501c3s and stuff, but remember what I told you, I felt like, they kind of was asking for money in my story and didn't give me anything.
Yeah.
But that's how they're designed, right? So I learned about something called an endowment.
Oh, can you say that one more time?
Endowment.
Endowment. What is
So that is, Oprah Winfrey has one. It's where instead of a 501c3, it's the same thing, but instead of 501c3s make money and then they give that money away, and it's a cycle. Endowments make the money, invest that money in the vehicle, same cause. The vehicle makes a ROI, and then you take the money from that ROI in order to give away. So you're constantly
So it has like a business vehicle within it.
Correct.
Endowment.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's the new age model of making money, investing money, because they're going to feel better about their money as well, because they know where it's going, and they're doubling. So you give me 10,000, that can double to 10.5, 11, 12,000, and then those proceeds go, you get yours, those proceeds go back because you get your tax write-off. Those proceeds go back to help the community, but I don't have
no
to
idea
beg.
about this.
Yes, I will explain more about this afterwards.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. I got creative. Second thing, I do real estate, right? I love doors. I always say I'm a pretty girl to sell ugly apartments, sell ugly deals, because I'll go where people won't go, and I'll walk that, and I'll see, and I'll ask the neighbors, and I'll hunt them down, and I'll get that property. But I wasn't getting it for me. I don't want $1 million in revenue. I want 1 million doors to house women that have been trafficked.
Wow.
I want 1 million lives impacted. Don't you know that's quadruple $1 million? People play too small. So keeping that purpose ahead of me, I said, okay, so I'm going to create the not-for-profit, turn the vehicle into the endowment. So it's called Home for Angels. So what we do is we take women that have been sexually trafficked and we house them in our tiny homes, or either there's something called stackable homes, 3D printing, because you got to get creative with stuff like this when you're building safe communities, when you're dealing with this population of individuals. But I still get to do real estate. I still get to make money, but I'm serving people.
Yeah.
This ain't no Section 8. This ain't this is real deal spots that people can come when they've been trafficked. And you got to think about it. A lot of people are going to ask, why are you doing that? Once they hear my story, my story is, it helps me to stay convicted. I didn't make a choice to do this. I'm convicted. Like, I got a life sentence for this.
Yeah.
And I can't take that away, because that's the life I've lived. So I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And I think that when I talk, it's a part of me that is very much polished and educated and beautiful, but it's a part of me that's real and country and street.
Right.
And I think both of those make me who I am. And I pull those out, and I do that, and I think my intention gets people's attention. So it takes out once I share my story, it really solidifies everything that I do.
One thing I want to say, and I appreciate you being super genuine. Most people would try to fake where they come from and language.
Oh, no.
People like us are not supposed to be doing this.
No, we not.
There's a good amount of people who follow me who look like you, who look like me, who go, can I be successful? Who go, I have this pain, this crazy past.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I think Oprah said this, your message.
Yeah.
And your pain could be, your purpose could be a profit. You could go from this very broken story to a very successful future. And I really just want to say, because I told you I was going to say this in the podcast, and I just want to say this now, is where I'm living right now mentally is God-focused.
Yes.
I've made a lot of success. I've done a lot of stuff without God. So I went from being super poor to being extremely successful and then losing everything.
Whew.
Now that God is in the foundation, I really do believe, wholeheartedly believe, that anything is possible through God. Yeah. And we've heard that, we hear that here and there, but when you truly align your pain, your purpose, and where you're going to profit with God in the middle, the supernatural things happen.
Yeah.
Like you being in this podcast is supernatural favor, because I'm committing to do this podcast with God in the foundation. And I just want to let people know that are listening, take a moment. Realize that it doesn't matter your past. It doesn't matter your skin color. It doesn't matter your age. She's 32. I'm 28. It doesn't matter who you are and where you come from. With God in the middle and your belief in your purpose, you could get to the profits you want to get to. You could be the best version of yourself. It's 1,000% possible. And let her story be the reason why you don't stay where you're at. Yeah. So I want to take that moment just to say that, because the purpose of this whole podcast, I don't care about fame. I don't care about going viral. Yeah. I don't care about having conversations with people. I care about making you better.
Yes.
And so I'm just really grateful that we're at this position of this podcast where we talked about that.
Correct.
And I know it's still like your stories, there's so much more, and we're going to get to in a second. Yeah. But I just want the audience, the people listening in, driving or watching on YouTube or wherever you're watching at, just to realize you don't need to stay where you're at because of the pain.
Correct. Oh, I love this. Okay, so we're going to pivot, guys, right here.
Let's
because you said you don't have to stay where you are. So let me help you guys understand how to get in the vehicle to go to where you want to be.
Let's go.
So you can't put out what you don't put in. So I'm going to get a little technical here. Your brain is a muscle, and there's 8 chambers. And when you listen to music, it pulls and it pulls and it pulls, so you retain better. But when you listen to conversation, you only take about 30% of that in. So a lot of the times I like to start with, what are you listening to? People listen to music every day. It's a part of your subconscious programming. We operate 90% subconsciously, 10% consciously. The vehicle that they need to get into, it starts from you having consciousness. Consciousness, we are free through conscious perception. We are enslaved to what we don't consciously perceive. So a lot of people, they want to, but they don't know how. Before I can even tell you how, the first thing I have to show you is that you're operating out of habit. So you got to get conscious first.
I love that.
What does conscious mean? It ain't no hum-da-da-da. No.
That's fun.
Consciousness is awareness.
Yeah.
Being aware.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you don't know. So watching this podcast, and now that they know there's another route, they're aware. The first thing that I did was I looked up everything free that I could do that was self-development.
Okay.
I looked up books, podcasts.
What was the first book that you picked up?
The 4 Agreements.
Okay, I still need to read that.
The 4 Agreements.
It's a really good book.
That's why I speak so well. Be impeccable with your words and don't take anything personal. Always do your best. And I always forget the last one, but that was one of the first books I picked up. One of the first women that I looked up to. And like, this was free, y'all. Got the books off free, because Audible, what happens when you first sign up is you get a first month free.
Yeah.
So you get a free book too. So that's how I started. And then there's a book called Compound Habits.
Compound Habits.
So I realized
I've heard about that one too.
Yep, in the car, I think at that time I was driving a lot, and I was doing like Uber and Lyft on the side. I just put a book in every day.
Okay.
I did things where I didn't have to think, and I doubled down with stuff that I could do. So you stopped listening to music.
No music at all. Replacing it.
Yes.
With these audiobooks.
Yes.
I'm assuming podcasts too. And
yes.
Okay.
So the first thing I did, and y'all could do this with no money.
Okay, hey, y'all like
free,
that.
Okay?
Most of y'all.
First thing is, I'm glad that you're here, because you're here by design, and you're here by destiny, and you're here because you're determined. So don't take this podcast lightly. This can change your life, but you got to believe that it will. So right now, I want you to make an agreement with yourself that you're going to change today, and that you're going to take at least one of these steps that we're talking about, because this is definitely much God ordained, and this is definitely there's no place I'd rather be. If you didn't have this, I wouldn't be able to get rewarded from God, because you gave me a spot to be able to do my purpose. So because you followed that and I'm following this, now we can serve, right? So I'm just sharing that with you guys so you understand this is real. This is not a joke. This is this is real.
Yeah.
So number one, now that you know, be aware and be conscious. Audiobooks in the car. When you're working out, listen to audiobooks, podcast. Choose your destination. If I have a bow and arrow and I pull it back, but there's no target, I'm never going to hit a target. It's not even there. So you got to put a target up. Even if you miss it, at least you could see it.
Yeah, that's good.
So write your target down.
You're going to miss it a few times.
You're going to miss it a few times.
But
as long as you know it's right there.
Yeah.
But if you don't have it, then you blind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's when the enemy comes in, is when we get confused. There is power in clarity. So in order to be clear and have clarity, you got to make a choice.
Yeah.
It's that simple, y'all. Make a choice. What do you want? Number 2, start listening to stuff that help you get there. Instead of being entertained. Do you know to entertain means you have to go inside, contain, entertain. That means you hold.
It's the first time I've heard that.
Entertain.
Wow.
What is your entertainment? I don't have entertainment. Some people be like, let's go have some fun. You know what I ask them? What's fun to you? Fun to me is right now. Fun to me is traveling with my friend who got me into this room. Shout out to Paul Brown. He's one of my friends, and he always, sends me this stuff and, gives me webinars and conferences to go to. And, having friends like that is what I entertain myself with, right? That's fun. Shout out to Larry for getting me on this podcast. This is fun. Drinking, smoking, going to clubs, being at low vibe, none of that is fun to me. So the first thing I ask people, look at your circle. Right now, look at your last 10 text messages on your phone, y'all. Are those conversations serving you? Are they taken away from you? Are they distracting you?
Good.
We can start there. It's the little itty bitty things that we can use to start. When it comes to success and in business and stuff, y'all gonna have to start being real. Because I promise you, if I wasn't real with people, half of the time, the stuff that has been given to me has been gifted to me. This is real, y'all. I've gotten off stage and got a $10,000 check. I just did an event 3 days ago. Somebody wired me $1,000.
And I believe that.
I'm serious. I got receipts. I keep everything.
And look, I just want to take a quick moment because a lot of people think becoming a speaker, all the money that people say they make, it's real. It's true. And again, if God is in the foundation, his supernatural power. You said something outside the podcast. You said that God brings people brings people. I really believe that God moves through people and God blesses people to be blessings towards other people. Yeah. And when you're living in your purpose the way you are, I wholeheartedly believe that more and more money flows. Yeah. A few days ago, my church, I go to City Light here in Vegas.
I'd love to visit.
It's the best church
love to visit,
for entrepreneurs. And look, it's not a church for entrepreneurs. It just so happens that most successful entrepreneurs go to that church. It just I think it was just God's way to bring like-minded people. Yeah. Anyways, there was a pastor named is Tommy Barnett. Okay. And this guy is, he just really shook the house. And he was saying, I lost my train of thought. What did you say before I said what I said?
Bloopers. But we were talking about how I think you were about to go into how basically God uses people to be a blessing.
Got you. Yeah. Got you. So Tommy Barnett was saying money follows ministry. Money follows purpose. Money follows impact.
Yeah.
It really does.
It really does.
And there's so many moments in my life where I'm focusing on impact and I'm like, how am I supposed to do X, Y, and Z financially?
Correct.
And I just pray about it and God just goes, boom, here it is. Every single time.
It never failed me one time. And I think that this good point, it just dawned on my head. The question that I've been asked the most this year is, how did you become a successful speaker? Let me define success. Okay. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal.
Woo!
That's Earl Nightingale, y'all.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
But the way you said it. Can you say that just one more time?
Yes. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal.
So good.
I became successful the moment that I believed that I could, wrote a plan out, and started the first thing. The moment you start, you bring the energy and the vibrational frequency of success to you because you're happy.
Right.
Like the first day I went and ran, I've been eating good, y'all, all this year. So I put on some weight. So last month, I went to Atlanta, and I wrote out a plan. I got a coach to help me. And I said, I'm gonna do 2 days, twice a week. I'm not doing any events, no podcasts, no outings, no publicity, and I'm going to lose some weight. And I lost 12 pounds. But that was at the end. That was me gauging the results of my success. I was successful the moment that I went in Atlanta, cleared my schedule, and ran the first morning. The first one I couldn't even run. I just walked. I felt like I had already got I felt like I'd already got it.
Right.
Because I knew I was going to get it because I started.
Right.
And it takes that energy to keep you going. Momentum starts with energy. And energy starts with emotion. E plus motion is emotion.
I love that.
Energy starts when you get the emotion.
E plus motion. That's great. I've never heard that one. I'm learning a whole lot right now. That's so good. That's a good book title, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, E plus motion equals emotion. Yeah, so good.
We got our intellectual property, okay?
Don't come. Look, she's purpose driven. You don't want to mess with God, all right?
Okay, don't play with my God.
Right.
And so, but what I would tell them is the first thing I do is ask a question.
Right.
Anytime somebody's a really good coach, they're not going to give a lot of advice. They're just going to ask you questions,
right? Because
they know your experience is different than theirs, so they're not going to be able to sit there and talk about what worked for them. They could tell you that,
right?
But ultimately, it's just a model for you to make your own to work for you based on your life and your personality type and your experiences and what you like and your boundaries, right? So this whole guru thing and like speakers and like celebrity, I'm not with that, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm an average woman that make extraordinary decisions every day. Y'all could do it too, because everybody start average.
Yeah.
You become extraordinary based on what people think. I'm extraordinary based on what God thinks.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change. When I do wrong by him, I don't care how much money I got. I don't care what I look like. If I do wrong by him, I'm a failure.
Facts.
So,
I mean, you could, like, the truth is, like, yes, you're saying that very passionately, but the truth is that is literally the truth.
That's the truth.
If you do wrong by God,
you're a failure.
Well, you're going to feel it.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're going to feel it.
You're going to feel it. You're going to experience. You can think you have the whole world.
Ooh.
And things will break. The foundation will break. I know you're a real estate, so imagine you buy a home and the foundation ain't built with the right stuff.
It's gone.
It's going to break. It doesn't matter how beautiful, how much riches are in the house. Yep. It's going to break.
Always check the slab. So, basically, to get back where I was going, because y'all, this is a great conversation. But long story short, people would come to me and they're like, how did you become successful? And I didn't tell them that. What I did was ask them, I said, are you willing to sell your property and travel year round? Are you willing to let your kids go stay with their father or with your family? Are you willing to be in hotels and Airbnbs and place to place and just doing stuff without a schedule, no certainty? Are you willing to do things for free when you feel right and sometimes take a loss? Are you willing to go out there and put yourself in the front to be dissected by everybody and not let it change your emotional frequency? Are you willing to be the dumbest person in the room? Are you willing to be the poorest person in the room? By the time I get to the end of it, they're like, oh, girl, I ain't doing that. That's what I did.
But that's the truth.
I sold my house.
Yeah.
I traveled year round because what happened after Growth Conference was, I wish I had a movie, like screen to show it. I had 187 DMs, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, like I quicksand going through. The ones that I caught was the ones that I'm booked up. But immediately I got booking after booking after booking after booking after booking. No team, no product, no stylist, no wardrobe, no videographer. I didn't know any of that. But now I know all of that because I emerged myself into the business based on my purpose.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything else, but I just trusted God.
Yeah.
And because of that, that's how I got successful in all of this stuff. Now I do have a coaching program. Now I do have I can say no.
Yeah.
Because now I have a speaker kit. I have a speaker sheet. I have a one-pager. I have a scissor reel. I have a team around me. I have an assistant.
Yeah.
It's not, well, it's kind of virtual, but I have an assistant. I have a stylist. I have someone that teaches me how to cross my legs when I sit, not to chew gum when I go. I didn't know any of that. But I learned all that this year because I went into the field and I immersed myself into it and I put God first and I bet on myself because do y'all know 80% of what I did this year was for free? Just to build my branding?
That's called sweat equity.
Sweat equity. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to say 80% of it was sweat equity.
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't like the word free.
Yeah, I don't like it free either, but sweat equity in it.
80% of what I've done was free. I'm sorry, with sweat equity.
Yeah.
And so if they're not willing to do that, and then number two, if you look at who's the big who's, I went to maybe 4 or 5 conferences this year. I went to growth conference to speak, but also to learn. I'm at Rainmaker Summit with Bill Walsh right now in a mastermind. I did Lisa Nichols speaking Right to Make Millions. This is all this year. So not only am I speaking, when I'm not speaking, I'm learning. I'm networking.
That's good.
I'm growing. Every single event that I went to, I booked another stage. Next year, I got about 90% retention, meaning that every stage that I booked, they asked me to come back. Do you know why? When I went there, I was early. After I got off stage, I went into the audience. That's where the sales happen. Most people speak and leave like they celebrities. Who are you to speak to me, make me feel emotional, and want to get to know you, and you just dip? After I listen to you for an hour, who you think you are? I hope that some speaker can hear this podcast and really start to see the responsibility that comes with the emotion behind what you put out there.
Big responsibility.
Your emotion set them in motion.
Right.
So you done did all that and left.
You did all that, left, and then they work with someone else.
Yeah. And on top of that, I don't sell from the stage.
Yeah.
I don't have to. All I do is share and add value from the stage.
Yeah. That's the best
At the end of it, I throw a little QR code, talk to me in the back. Because I stay there, I sell in the field.
Yeah, I love
one-on-one.
I love that.
Personal. Zig Ziglar said it. Zig Ziglar said he had interviewed, I think, 20,000 of his students and asked them what was his favorite, part of his stage. He was talking about what he did on stage. 90% of them said it was what happened off the stage. Wow. That was their best. They don't even remember what you say on stage.
Yeah.
It's just to capture them. It's just to let them know who you are.
Yeah, that's the
and
truth.
Attention is the most valuable real estate in the world right now. If they can see you, we know subconsciously, whether they like you or not. How many people see Grant Cardone every day, all day long? I can't go a day. It hasn't been a day that I haven't seen this man.
Right.
I know he spends $1 million a month on advertisement. Mm-hmm. You gotta be seen. And once you're seen and they dissect you and they come back to you, what are you gonna do with that?
Right.
So I think that it's this thing right now. Everybody wants to be a speaker. Everybody wants to get on stage. I want them to know what it takes to really be a speaker, to really get on stage and to really change lives. Because if you selling from the stage and it's just about products and it's very business trade show, like, cool. But to the ones that go there and they sharing their story and they're gurus, and then you have a $5,000, $12,000, $25,000 package, but you can't even sit here and shake my hand, the nerve of you. I want to challenge those type of speakers. I want to change the speaking industry. I want to get it back to where it used to be, where it was when Les Brown was the Les Brown that I knew back in the day in the Dome.
Right.
That changed lives because it changed mine. I want to get back to Lisa Nichols when she said she birthed something, that elephants get pregnant and it take them 2 years, but a puppy come from a litter, take them a couple months, and dogs can have a whole litter of puppies, but an elephant can only have one, and it takes 2 years to cultivate that. Are you pregnant with a puppy idea, or you got an elephant inside you? I heard that years ago. Change your mindset, change your life. Mel Robbins, the 5-second rule. When they brought up that stuff, I remembered it. It changed my life and it meant something to me. So when I meet you and it don't add up, it really mess with people. It's almost like we therapists on stage. But the therapist got to go through and pass a test to get that type of responsibility with people. But as a speaker, just because you got that title on your name, you got the ability to go up there and talk to people. People really messed up out here in the world, man.
Right.
Mental health is real. They hurting. And I know because I'm one of them. I'm still healing. I'm not perfect. But what I do know is the perfect way, and that's through God. Because through God, all things are what?
Possible.
Righteous.
Righteous. I love that.
Through him, all things become righteous. All things become right when you let him, guide you and follow your path.
Yeah.
So I'm early in this game. I'm 32. I'm just getting started. I got a break like nobody else would in the world. People all over the world would love to be. I was on the stage with I spoke on stage with Tom Brady, Rick Ross, Steve Harvey, Grant Cardone. These are people that have graced that growth conference stage. And now I get to say Shametria Gonzales too. Just a small town country girl. And if I could do it, why can't you?
Let's go. Damn. That's a sizzle reel right there. That's going on the TikTok.
Bars.
That's a
it's
bar.
energy, man.
Yeah.
It's
love
just the energy. Even me being here with you and sharing like I'm doing, this is one of the most comfortable. I don't know if it's because we sitting like this or maybe because it's God. I get to say God and not feel weird about it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad to be here, and you really helped me because some of the stuff that I said today, I forgot myself. And I think what happens in these conversations is that we remember, and we always need to be reminded. So every time I go on a stage, I always say, y'all the experts, because I'm here to talk about you. You know you. But maybe I'm just give you something that can remind you something, because you already know, right? But I just want to remind you of some of the stuff that you may have forgot, or may have gotten lost, or maybe you don't feel anymore, right? Because then it takes the responsibility off of me of being a teacher and a guru. I'm just pulling out of them emotion to be able to evoke the spirit inside of them.
Wow,
it's
that's
there.
so good.
Yeah.
I love that. Wow. You know, for everyone that's listening in, if you need to pause this, we're getting to the tail end of the podcast, but if you need to pause it, you need to reflect. You need to, one of the things that I've learned recently is if you're not taking notes, perfect. Rewatch this and take notes. Watch something once, watch it twice, take notes on the second time. There's been a lot of strategy, a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
Wisdom from experience from somebody who shouldn't even be here today, but she's here to change generations. Yeah. She's changed generations and she's changing generations. Yeah. And when you're in the proximity of greatness, you stay, you learn, and you implement. So Shametria, I'm really grateful to meet you, to be here with you, to build this relationship. Yes, this is the first conversation and the first thing we do, but I'm sure there's going to be many more podcasts we do in the future, and we do a part 2, and I'm really excited to do the part 2 where I'm like, how did you get on this and that and this? Because you're just starting. Like your fire is lit, and it's only going to get larger. One thing I always ask people on this show is this question.
Okay.
So this is the question.
All right.
If your entire existence, I'm talking everything, was completely not eliminated, because that sounds bad, but just gone, zapped, like there's nothing except a piece of paper where you could write one sentence on, and it's framed in the Hall of Heroes for the rest of eternity, what would that paper say?
It's possible.
And why is that?
Because if my existence is gone, then it's not about me. It's about something that adds value to whoever's looking at the paper. And I would always want them to know that it's possible. And I think when things are made too hard or too difficult, the brain shuts down, because the whole point of it is for us, is to protect us. So when things are simple and easy and comfortable, we can do it and it feels right. But everything you want is on the other side of being uncomfortable.
I love
when
that.
When you want to change.
I love that.
It has to be.
It's possible.
It's possible.
I love that. That's so good.
Thank you.
It's so good because it does reflect this whole conversation. Yeah. The foundation of this whole conversation is it's possible. And I love that that is what you would write as your entire existence is on that paper. Yeah. That's so good. Yeah. Man, I'm just beyond grateful for this.
Thank you.
I know that many people from many different walks of life will be impacted through this podcast.
Yes.
Through this conversation, through your story, through what you're doing. I want to ask you, as we wrap this up, what does the rest of 2023 look like for you?
The rest of 2023 for me looks like gratitude.
Okay.
So when I say that, it's just a reflection of being grateful, because the spirit of gratitude is my attitude. And there's a book called The Science of Getting Rich that talks about that. And when you're grateful for things, it multiplies. And I loved my life this year. And there was good and bad times. I'm not going to lie. Somebody trademarked my name. It was all type of stuff. But as I reflect, the rest of this year looks like reflection in the spirit of gratitude. And when I say that, that's even better. So I'm going to change my word from gratitude to reflecting in a spirit of gratitude. That means I'm looking back over everything that happened, because what happens, this is the fourth quarter. So quarter 1, 2, and 3, I was on the go, on the go, on the go. Quarter 4, I'm going to reflect, being grateful for the good and bad. Eject the lessons. I'm going to reflect and eject the lessons to be prepared for 2024. Yeah. 2024 is going to be the best grossing year of my life. 2024 is going to be the year that my documentary comes out. 2024 is going to be the year that I get married.
Okay,
right? I deserve love. I've been single for so long. Like 2024 is going to be the year that everything that I touched multiplies, including this podcast. Come through, God. Don't play with me. And I would say I'm going to go with the scripture that I'm going to go into 2024 with. I'm saying 2022. I meant 2024, y'all. But the scripture I'm going to go into is Romans 12, verses 2. I think that's why I kept saying 22. And it says, do not conform to the ways of the world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind.
That's so good.
And to renew something is just like you go get a passport renewed, just like a driver's license renewed. Everything comes with an expiration date. And once it expires, it's null and void, even if you still got it.
Yeah, you have to take a test.
Got to take a test.
Yeah, to get renewed.
So you got to test yourself.
So good.
You got to look at the results of the tests that you have passed or failed in life in order to renew your mind.
Reflecting as this fourth quarter.
Correct.
That's so good. That's a bar right there.
Thank you. I should be a rapper, y'all.
Yeah.
Next time we're going to put on a beat.
Let's go. That is how you wrap up a podcast.
Thank
you. You literally gave a perfect blueprint for everyone to take what they learned from this and go into the new year. So, Shametria, I'm beyond grateful for this.
Thank you.
I want to make sure that every link to everything you have going on is under the show notes.
Okay.
So people will be able to find you through these show notes.
Yeah.
Make sure you're connected with someone like her. If you're someone who is an aspiring speaker, you're an entrepreneur, you're somebody who wants to follow your purpose, and you're not sure how, I'm 100% sure the blueprint will be found through her content. So make sure you're connected with her. Make sure you go to the events that she's speaking to. And hey, if you have a mastermind, you have an event, you want to book her, make sure you tap in with her because she is getting booked. And I'll tell you this, just in her presence here, her charisma is beyond anything I've ever experienced. So
thank you.
I'm beyond grateful for this.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you for having me. And guys, he's being very modest, but the only reason that I was able to come to this show, I did do my due diligence, and I want to say congratulations on getting baptized.
Thank you.
Congratulations on getting married.
Thank you.
Congratulations on going from turning nothing into something and grossing a 6-figure income based off of selling e-commerce clothing. Thank you for putting God is the plan, the only plan. God's plan is the plan on your clothing. Thank you for honoring and allowing me to be such a woman of God on this podcast. And thank you for being a 28-year-old that's going to revolutionize the way that people do podcasts and the way that people experience podcasts from here on out. I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you. And I wish you nothing but success. So I have gratitude for you. And to his audience, man, stick with this man, subscribe, like, comment below. But he's the real leader. He's the real one.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I receive those words. I'm grateful for those words, and I honor them because I know the spirit of where those words are coming from, and I feel the Holy Spirit in the room. I mean, since the beginning, but I feel it now more than ever because it's confirming that this podcast is a divine appointment,
and it is.
So for everyone that's tapping in, like my energy kind of just went a little low because I'm just taking it in for what it is. And if you're catching this podcast, this is a sign. And it's a sign that the Holy Spirit is calling you to step into your purpose.
Yes.
Is calling you to get to the next level. Is pushing you to get uncomfortable. Yeah. All the things that you said, you're going to have to rewatch this back now that you're here. Because there's a blueprint in this podcast. Yeah. To go from pain to purpose to profit. Correct. And I'm just beyond grateful to. I didn't even realize that was the blueprint. Yeah. It really was. Yeah. Yeah. You shared the whole thing. I did, it's so good. So appreciate you. Thank you. Safe travels. And I'm sure part 2 will be coming very soon. It's a wrap. See you guys. Thank you so much for experiencing this amazing episode. I'm sure I've said it plenty of times. But if this episode has impacted you in any way, subscribe, like, comment, share, and make sure that you are staying connected with us for the next guest, because these conversations are going to keep having, they're going to keep coming, and I guarantee you your life will be better. Take care.